Okay. I don't know when that went off, but okay. Let's just wait for a few minutes. Supriya, are you out or are you at home?
Can you hear me, Satvika?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, hi. No, I'm out. I'm out.
No worries. But I hope you're able to
Is that
follow while you're out. No problem at
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. I'm just walking on a plain ground so I can stare at the phone. I can look at the
Yeah, there's not much to look at. I'll tell you when you have to look so you can
okay.
take care when
Okay.
you're walking. Yeah,
Okay. Thanks, Satvika.
anytime. Hi, Benny. Okay, let's start. If anyone else is going to join us, they can join in anytime. Okay, so let's begin. And yeah. So I'm just going to start with a general explanation of the energy system when it comes to yoga and when it comes to just generally the general energy system, how energy flows in the body and how the movement of energy takes place and what happens during menstruation, and according to that, why we need to modify the practice. Now, this is not just during menstruation, this is also during when you're sick and you need to recover, when your body is recovering from any illness, or when you're just extremely tired. You do need to modify the practice because we have to respect the needs of the body. So, this also works for restorative yoga. It's not just for menstruation, it's also restorative because, again, I'll explain as we go through the session why we work on some areas more or we just relax some areas more than others, even for restorative yoga. So now we all know that there is something called prana, right? So prana is the life force energy, the flow of life, the flow of the vital force within us. So prana is what moves us, what moves everything inside our bodies, what also makes our mental state function in a particular way. Now, if we look at prana generally, prana is just generally life force energy. But this prana has different functions. So sometimes prana takes on the role of digestion. Sometimes prana takes on the role of your mental activity, because this is all of this is moved by prana. All of this is moved by the life force energy. So when prana takes on different roles, it has different names. So that's what I'm just going to start with. It's called the prana vayus. Vayu is wind, or in this case, it is movement. It is a movement of prana, how prana moves. And when it moves differently, it takes on different roles. So, let me just 1 second. Yeah. So when it takes on different roles, it has different names. So when we speak of prana globally or prana generally, it refers to life force energy. And when we speak of the prana vayus are the 5 roles that prana takes on for different functions. Mental activity, digestion, elimination, all of that are the prana vayus, the movement of prana to execute different body functions. So, just a second. Just a minute, everyone. I'm just trying to share my screen and I'm just trying to open that particular image. Yeah, so I'm going to show you an image. Now, this is quite detailed. We're not going to go deep into every part of it. So let's just see this. This is the 5 prana vayus. I think you can see it, right? Just let me know if you can see it. Sorry. Stop share. Do you see the image, the slide? Sorry, guys, I'm not very good with all this screen sharing and all. So just give me some feedback if you can. Can you see that slide of the 5 prana vayus?
Yes, yes. I mean,
Oh,
I saw it before. Now it's gone back to your.
Oh, you see the desktop, is it?
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. Sorry. Please excuse my, my stop share. Just a minute.
Can.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I think now it'll work. Yeah. Okay. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So, these are the different roles that prana takes on. Okay. So we have prana. I'm not going to go deep into all of this. So just look at it very quickly and I'll just focus on the one that is relevant to us for this topic. Now, the first one is prana on the left side, where it's written chest. This prana is the function of prana. This is not the prana of life force energy. This is general. This is the prana vayu prana. So the prana vayu prana is the prana taking on the role of breathing, of respiration, and all the some other body functions along with that. Then we have under that is samana. Samana is when prana takes on the role of digestion. So when the movement of prana is focused around the abdomen, when it makes the digestive organs move, that is when prana is called, the prana vayu, the prana movement is called saman. Now come to the right side, udan. Udan is when it comes to the head, when it comes to the mind, all the intellectual activity. That is prana taking on the role of all the thoughts and all your mind work. Then comes Vyan, and that refers to prana moving other things in the body, like your heartbeat, your muscle movement, all other functions in your body, generally, globally, overall in the whole body. So if you see Vyan also in the whole body, you see the arrows are flowing everywhere because it's literally all the body functions. Now we come last to the one that concerns us with this topic, and that is Apan. Apan is when prana takes on the role of elimination or removal of any substance from the body. So if you see it, it is depicted as that arrow going down. So it shows downward movement of energy. It refers to excretion, urination, menstruation, and all forms of elimination. Like even sweating is apana vayu. Even exhaling, breathing out is apana vayu. So all of this outward movement or removal of anything from the body comes into the category of apana. Apana is the downward movement of prana, which is where prana is responsible for removal and elimination. Now, when prana is in this downward flow, now when we do all our usual yogic practices or any other form of sadhana, what is our objective at the energy level? Are we trying to take the prana up or are we trying to take prana down?
We're trying to take it up.
Yes, we are trying to take it up because we want to lift that prana. We want that prana to go higher and higher and open up our energy centers. And as it goes up the energy centers, it opens up our levels of awareness. So when your prana rises, when it goes up through the chakra system and opens up all the chakras, you get higher levels of awareness and deeper insights into the oneness of all things. Now, that is how we want to, that is the experience that we want to have, or that is the objective of sadhana is aims to raise your prana, to lift your prana, so that you can achieve that state where you don't feel disconnected from divinity and all of that. That is the objective of prana. But when during the biological process of menstruation, the predominant force or the predominant flow of energy is downward, it is apana. So here we have to sort of give the sadhana a little bit of a backseat so that it doesn't interfere with the downward flow of energy. Because otherwise, if we continue with our regular sadhana, our regular practice, it will just keep lifting the prana up, 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 and that actually disturbs the downward movement of energy in the body. So there are certain asanas that we do to allow downward movement and opening up of the downward, opening up of the body to allow that downward movement to happen easily. And there are some asanas that we deliberately choose not to do, only to respect the flow of energy at that time. Now, when we choose not to do this, it is not because we are incapable of doing it. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are not. Maybe some people feel, they're very uncomfortable. Every woman is different, so every woman's body is also different. So for some women, they just want to completely rest, and that's perfectly fine. And for some people, they are absolutely okay, and their bodies feel capable of doing even regular strong practices. But when the problem is, when you do regular strong practices, it disturbs the downward flow, it disturbs the movement of apana. And that is why we back off from the regular practices to respect apana for that period. So now, when we do certain asanas like inverted asanas, headstand, shoulder stand, all of those take your prana up to the head, up, right? Because you're literally going upside down so that your energy can go to the head. So we skip that. We skip those. Instead, we do more of restorative kind of asanas, soothing asanas, asanas that open up your hip and pelvic region. And this also works in restorative yoga because that is where a lot of stress is stored in the body, even generally, not just for women, but even for men. So let's just quickly go through all the asanas, and y'all can interact with me, so that if you interact, it would be y'all will remember what I'm saying. Okay, so either feel free to unmute since we're a small group, or if you want to type, please feel free to type. Now, when we do standing postures, can we do our usual standing postures? What do you think? All your warrior poses. And in case there's anybody who does not have an understanding of these asanas, don't worry. Just try to get the overall global thing of this topic. Standing postures like warrior pose, triangle pose. Can we do these asanas? Are they fine to do?
Yeah, I think they should be fine.
Absolutely. There is absolutely no interference with apana when we do these postures. Okay, unless there is a tight twist involved. So you would skip all the revolved ones. You would skip the revolved triangle, Parivarta Trikonasana. You would skip anything where there is a strong twist in the standing postures. Then we come to seated postures. What kind of seated postures are helpful? So generally, what is our first seated posture when we practice in class for those who practice?
Sukhasana.
Hmm?
Sukhasana.
Sukhasana is fine. That's a simple cross-leg posture, yes.
Vajrasan, Padmasan.
All your seated, basic seated postures are absolutely fine. There's nothing, it doesn't disturb apana in any way. Paschimottanasana is very good. All these forward folds and all the other variations of the forward bends and forward folds, very good, very soothing to the body, very restorative in nature. So you can actually stay in those asanas and relax into those asanas for a longer period of time, and use props to support your practice so that you can stay there and rest in those postures. I'll show you some pictures soon. Then, what about hip opening asanas like butterfly pose, Upavishta Konasana?
I personally feel
Hmm?
I practice that I feel very good when I do these asanas during my menstruation. So
Exactly.
I always practice very good flow during my menstruation. I avoid inversions, like just like you said. But
Yes.
some of my sirs have said, that you can if you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And I have practiced once or twice and I have not seen any increase or decrease in the flow.
Hmm.
So sometimes it depends. Again, it's where you tend to get moody, right?
Hmm.
So I practice all of this on myself to see how I feel.
Yeah.
So I feel very good with hip openers, especially during my periods. And I feel that the hip opens more
Yes.
during these 3-4 days.
Yes. And were you taught this or did you just intuitively figure this out?
I have noticed this with practice, honestly.
Yes. Yes.
If I can interrupt, I could not achieve a complete full Hanuman Asan split for quite some time. I have been trying,
Yeah.
and it actually happened during periods.
Yeah.
The hip opened and it just like full Hanuman Asan. I could hold it like for good 5 minutes. It was during that time.
Yes.
Then
And
I
that,
noticed I'm able to do it better during menstruation.
yes, you would notice that your body develops a little bit more flexibility at that time also.
Yes.
So, of course, that is, even though that happens, you should use it for the asanas that help at that time rather than block at that time.
Correct.
But like you figured it out just through practice. Practice is the greatest teacher, right? You naturally felt good doing hip opening asanas like butterfly pose, Upavishta Konasana, and any other like splits, Hanumanasana, because they open up the pelvic floor, they open up the body, and they allow that apana to move. So you naturally feel good, and it actually helps the process, the menstrual process. Again, you can do it just as you usually do it, or if you want to do it in a restorative way, you can do it with the support of props. Like just keep a chair and rest your head on that chair when you're doing Upavishta Konasana. I'll show you pictures. So those who are lost with these names, don't worry. We'll see some pictures and it'll get clear. Coming to twists, what kind of twists can we do and what kind of twists should we avoid?
How about seated twists?
Yeah, but in twists, if you notice, I mean, if you're a regular practitioner, you would know that there are some twists where you compress the abdomen, and there are some twists which are open, where there is no compression on the abdomen. Like if you're just sitting cross-legged and you just twist like this, or even if you're sitting on a chair and you just twist like this, that is an open twist. There is nothing like putting pressure on your abdomen. So those kinds of twists are absolutely fine. And twists where, like for example, half spinal twist, Ardha Matsyendrasana, where you're twisting against your leg. You're using your leg to give resistance and go into a deep, tight twist. That can be skipped or that can be reduced in intensity because you don't want to pressurize the abdomen and again block a panic flow of energy. What about arm balances?
Just on the twist, what about binds, Satvika?
Binds, again, if it's open on the abdomen, you can go for it. But if your abdomen is against your leg and you're twisting and putting pressure on your abdomen against your leg, then just don't do that part of it. So if it's an open bind, it's fine. Like Marichasan A, that's not even a twist actually. That's a forward fold. Those binds are fine, no problem. What about arm balances? Let's start with which is the basic arm balance, the beginner level arm balance.
Propose.
Propose is a little more advanced, even more basic than that. Like for an absolute beginner, which is the basic arm balance.
Parvatasana. Sorry, Adhuma, downward dog.
Downward dog, yes, that's fine. And little bit more intense than that, where you bring
What about a plank?
very close to
Tripod.
Parvasana in the same category of
Plank?
plank. Exactly.
Yeah.
Plank pose. In the Surya Namaskar, there's plank pose, and even generally outside of yoga, plank is very commonly practiced. So plank pose is like a basic level, beginner level arm balance. Now, just think when you're doing an arm balance, is it just your arms that are lifting you up?
Core also.
It's your core. The lift comes from your core. Your core is strongly engaged. So, because you're engaging the core, you are contracting the muscles of your abdomen. And again, that blocks a panic flow. If you're doing it as a Hatha Yoga Surya Namaskar where you're just holding it for 1-2 seconds, that's okay. That's not a problem. But if you hold plank pose for 30 counts, 40 counts, 50 counts, that has to be skipped during this time so that you're not holding that contraction in your abdomen for a long time. And of course, as you go into more advanced arm balances like crow pose, and we'll see some more Ashtavakrasana, all whatever arm balances you know, anything where you're lifting yourself off the ground with the help of your arms, the whole engagement happens in your core. So you have to just let that be, skip that, don't contract the core so much because it blocks energy flow. It blocks energy. And what about Kapalbhati?
I
To
guess
avoid.
Avoid. Why?
because it uses the muscles of the stomach.
Yes, your abdominal muscles are being contracted. It's a pumping action in your abdomen. Skip that. What about Anulom Vilom, holding the breath, retention part of Anulom Vilom?
Should be fine, I think, unless you.
Yeah, now here it's not that obvious. It's a little bit more subtle. But what happens is, see, in Anulom Vilom, when you're doing inhale, hold the breath, and exhale. Inhale, retain, and exhale. The retention part is the most powerful part of this practice because this is where we are really controlling. And I would not like to use the word manipulating prana, but you understand what I mean. It's not in a negative way, but that is how we are really working at the level of prana by the practice of retention. Retention is very powerful. And through retention, you can change the way prana flows. That's why, it also removes diseases from your body and things like that. Now, only thing is, it's perfect every other time, but here, because it manipulates at the pranic level or it moves things or it controls things at the level of prana, skip the retention part of it and just do inhale and exhale. So it becomes a milder practice. Because when you're doing the retention, you're making it very strong a practice, which will lift your energy upward. And you don't want to lift your energy so much upward at that time. Got it? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's just have a look at some of the images and how it can be practiced. Okay. Okay. So can you see the slide again?
Yes.
Yeah. So now this is how we practice our forward folds and forward bends. It's much softer. You don't extend and stretch like your full stretch. You can choose to use props if you want to do it as a restorative practice. This is optional. All these props are optional, but they are very soothing. They are honestly very soothing because they really allow your body to relax. And it relaxes at a very deep level. It's not just like taking a nap, because when you're in the asana, the energy is moving in a certain way. So it really relaxes you it relaxes you with a lot more power because um, these asanas work at the level of prana, of chakras, right? At the energy level. So when you're staying in the asana and relaxing into it, and you stay there for a few minutes, it induces very, very deep relaxation. So this is your regular Paschimottanasana supported. Now, looking at this one asana, which asana is this? Upavishta Konasana. It is a simple seated posture with your legs in a V. But you see how many variations there are of it. And all of this comes from Iyengar Yoga, because Iyengar Yoga is the style that is really, really in sync with the needs of the body using the help of props. Okay? So you can see so many different ways in which you can support your body into Upavishta Konasana and even stay there for 5-10 minutes. And the power of this is far more than just sitting on a sofa for 5-10 minutes and relaxing, because energy is flowing in a certain way. And like I said, you're inducing deep relaxation. What this does is when there is stuck energy somewhere in your body, it literally throws it out when you are resting in these postures for maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever, however long you can, depending on the posture, of course. So sometimes you can practice with a chair, with a bolster, with a block. You can combine props and support it. support yourself. And all of this applies even to restorative. This is all restorative practice. When you're unwell, practice like this, because prana heals your body. When you practice it, you feel better. But of course, you can't do dynamic practice when you're recovering from, say, fever, obviously, right? So that's when you modify and do this. You do the restorative practice so that you can get that prana flowing, so that it heals internally, but it is supported. And you can do it in a way where you can stay in that posture for a longer time. Hip opening postures. Now, these are your supine or your lying down postures. This is Supta Baddha Konasana. The sleeping Supta is lying down. Baddha Konasana is butterfly pose. But you see how supported it is. You can literally just be there for 10 minutes or longer, even if you like. So you can use a bolster under the back. You can use rolled blankets under your thighs or bricks under your thighs to give support, because sometimes otherwise that stretch in the pelvis feels too much. And again, this is not just during menstruation. This is also for restorative yoga for both women and men. Why? Any idea why? Can anyone guess why this posture is very powerful in restorative yoga?
Because they say hip contain all our emotions and a lot of stored energy.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
feel this is one of the best hip opening postures is Baddha Konasana.
Absolutely. And why do we store all that unprocessed emotion in the hip and pelvis? With
Why?
respect to the chakras? Which chakra?
Because of the Muladhara chakra.
Yeah, exactly. The root chakra, the Muladhara chakra, is our connection with the world around us, and it is our sense of security and stability. And stress or fear, stress is basically another word for fear. You're just not sure how things are going to work out. It is fear. Okay, that is stress. So fear is a sort of, it disturbs your sense of security and safety and stability. Whatever the stress may be, it may be a very small thing. It may be just the stress of having to reach somewhere on time, but it disturbs your sense of security and safety. And that sense of security and safety is in the Muladhara chakra, because that is the energy center that grounds us, that keeps us connected with the earth, that gives us that sense of stability. So that is why it is in this area, in this chakra, that we feel an imbalance, or we feel that all the unprocessed emotions of stress, etc., get stored. And that's why we need to open the hip when we do even restorative yoga, restorative practice. And of course, when you're doing it for menstruation, you want the apana to move down. So this really facilitates the flow of apana. This literally opens up the whole pelvis, and apana has absolutely there's nothing stopping apana. So it's very soothing, not just for your body, but even for your mind, even emotionally. It brings a lot of calmness just because apana is moving the way it should be moving at that time. This is your supported shavasana. This can be done even normally. You don't have to do this only as a restorative practice. There are different ways of doing shavasana. You can put your legs up on a chair. You can put your legs up on the wall. You can put your knees over a bolster. And this is just another few more supported asanas. That is child's pose with a bolster, the first one. The second, now in the box of four, we have again Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. This time it's much simpler with just two bricks under the thighs, so that when you stay there for a long time, it doesn't feel like an overstretch at the pelvis without any support. Just a simple reclining supine posture. Supine means when you're lying down on your back. Basic seated posture, and an alternative to your Makarasana. That's called Matsya Kridasana, again a relaxation posture, but you can use a bolster so that you don't really compress your abdomen when you're lying down. It's more turned out. So here, this is what we avoid. This is what I was talking about earlier. These are your closed twists, where there is pressure on your abdomen. Now, the rest of the time, we love these twists because they really, really work on so many different muscles, and they really, really work on your digestive system as well. But at this time, it contracts, it puts pressure on the abdomen, blocking the flow of apana. because of the leg moving and pressed against the abdomen. So skip this, whether it's the first one, which is the basic Ardha Matsyendrasana, also called Vakrasana, or complete Ardha Matsyendrasana, which is below, or on the right side um, with the black mat, that is Marichasana C. Forget about these names if it's too complicated, but just you get the understanding of how you're contracting your abdomen. These are much better. Open twists can be done. When you're just simple cross-leg posture, open twist, any seated posture where there's no pressure on the abdomen, or even a lying down posture where you put your hands up like this and just drop your legs to one side, bend your knees and drop your legs to one side. All of these are very okay. They're perfectly fine. These are your arm balances. Now, I would not call the second one so basic, but I still put it into relatively basic. The first one is basic. I would say if you're doing Hatha Yoga, Surya Namaskar, if you're doing plank pose, in the flow of that, you're holding it for 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Just go with it, continue to do it. Do it gently, slowly. Don't do it like in a over dynamic way. The second one, skip, because again, to push, you have to engage your core. So don't engage your core so tightly and strongly. Drop that asana. That is forearm plank, also known as dolphin plank. Now, these can be totally skipped and should be totally skipped because these are strong, powerful arm balances. And for this, you need strong core and very solid contraction in your abdomen. The Uddiyana Bandha is heavily contracted if you understand bandhas. If you don't, forget about that for now. So, crow pose on the left, Ashtavakrasana, anything where you're lifting off, all of this requires extremely strong core work. So just drop all of this because you don't want to disturb Apana. Yes, and that's all that I have to show you in the pictures. Now, in some schools of yoga, they say you can practice inversions. They leave it to you, to the woman, to decide whether she wants to practice inversions or not. So it's not like you have to stop inversions completely. It is just recommended because Apana is flowing in the opposite direction and the inversion is stopping the Apana from going downward at that time. Now, if you're doing Ashtanga method, if you're doing the Ashtanga, so those who are not very familiar with these terms, I hope it's not going over anyone's head too much. Okay, I'll explain it. Ashtanga Vinyasa is a more strong dynamic form of practice. It's a different method of practice. Hatha Yoga is much more balanced. Ashtanga has a lot of jump forward, jump back, and it's a very dynamic practice. Jump through, jump back. This has very, very strong core work. You might have seen on my Instagram if you follow me. All of that jump forward, jump through, jump back, jump through, jump back. All of those are called vinyasas. Vinyasas are when you link one asana to the other with that dynamic movement. Now, vinyasa again requires core engagement. It requires strong core engagement. So don't do vinyasas if you practice the Ashtanga method. Don't do those jump throughs and jump backs. Just don't do the jumps at all. Just skip the vinyasas and just do the asanas that are good. Skip the asanas that should be avoided. And the reason why I'm so particular about this topic is because sometimes people don't have knowledge of what is right for the body. And they feel, okay, I can do everything, let me do everything. And this used to be me actually. This was how I used to practice back in the day, many years ago. And I did everything because I really felt, I can do everything. So why should I just not do everything? The shift happened after I started practicing the Ashtanga method. Because in the Ashtanga method, it is very intense. It really requires you to go into deeper awareness of your body. And it is a deeper sadhana. It is a deeper physical sadhana, I would say. When I started practicing the Ashtanga method, I started noticing that it was actually interrupting the menstruation flow. Although I didn't feel any difference physically, but I realized that there was interruptions in the menstruation process. And then I started wondering what was going on and why it was going on, because all the while I had done Hatha Yoga with headstand and everything, and there was no problem at all. So I researched this and I read about it. And then I started understanding about the whole movement of Apana and how Apana and Prana in the Ashtanga method, it is much more like initially back in the day, Ashtanga was more practiced by men. The Ashtanga method, first when it started, was practiced more by men. Then later, women also started practicing very well. But it was really designed, that method was designed because it was such a dynamic practice. It was designed more for men, more yang practice, masculine practice. So it didn't really focus on the feminine needs of the body. So this had to be respected, and that's why in the Ashtanga method, there is a clear rule that if you're practicing Ashtanga, just take a break during this time or modify your practice to another style. Don't practice Ashtanga, or if you're doing it, do Ashtanga heavily modified, where you just drop all the core part of it. So this made it much easier, and this made it much more it respected the needs of the body, because you don't want to interrupt apanic flow. You don't want to interrupt the biology at that time. Any questions about this?
No, ma'am.
How long have
What
you
would
been,
you?
Padmaja?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
How long have you been practicing?
To be honest, I've been practicing from more than 15 years now.
Hmm.
But my practice is enhanced only in the past 2 years after completing my TTC and after meeting Ramendra sir, who you know. So my practice is completely shifted from what it used to be so many years back to
Yeah.
what it is now.
So are you still practicing with Ramendra ji?
Ramendra sir, I do his this one, what do you call it? There's one class he takes in Yoga Institute, right?
Yeah.
On Fridays, the IBY. I practice there with him.
Okay.
And otherwise, if there is something I need guidance on, he helps me out. And I mostly, do my practices on my own. I follow amazing people like you on Instagram and some other
I'm
few
just a
teachers like
regular
Ajay.
practitioner, but thank you for your sweet.
No, I saw your profile. It was damn good. It's very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, this so far I practice. Sometimes I attend some online classes, and that's how I increase my knowledge.
Yeah. And yeah, okay. So Padmaja, just give my regards to Ramendra ji. Please say hi to him from me.
Pakka. Sure. He only told me about you. Yesterday he sent me because from the past 2-3 cycles, I've been facing a lot of pain
Hmm.
during my periods, which was not there. And one day I didn't go to class one Friday, and I just happened to tell him. So it was very sweet of him. I think he saw your WhatsApp status, and he's like, "Why don't you attend this? Maybe you'll get some insight."
Yeah. This is just basic common sense actually, but of course we have to just make a mental note of it, because it's
Correct.
easy to forget. Okay. So Priya, you were asking me something?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One was that Anulom Vilom, when you were talking about.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it through my menstruation.
Hmm.
But when you say retention, is it because you're holding on to it? Or if it's an easy retention, does that
You
mean
can
that
do
you
an
can
easy
continue with it?
retention. You can do a shorter retention. There's no problem. Don't do the
Okay,
long full retention, because again, when
correct.
you're doing retention, you're making the practice very powerful and
Okay.
takes your
So
energy upward. So the
got it.
rest
So
of the time, please do it, because we want that.
okay.
But
Okay.
here it will you may not even notice the change, Supriya. It's very subtle actually, because it's all at the level of energy. But at the subtle level, it like the energy one way is going up, one way going down, and this is like it's like, okay, now it's confused. It doesn't know whether to go up or whether to go down. When
Got
we
it.
do,
Okay. Got it. I had one more question. What
yeah.
would you define as, your period? For example, if it's not a very heavy flow,
Hmm.
and let's say the first couple of days is a heavy flow, and the third one isn't so much, and let's say you're doing yoga on the third day. So does that
That's
still
fine.
count as
You can do it on the third day if you feel it's much less. You can do it.
okay? So basically, it goes with the flow. That's what you're saying, right? I mean, I just that's really what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Clarify.
like when you know that there's a lot of apana happening, when there's a lot of
Okay.
elimination happening, that time try not to interrupt it.
Okay, got it. So it's not strictly sticking to the number of days, but it's
Not
based
exactly.
on,
No,
yeah, okay,
just
got it,
based on
got
the
it.
signs
Okay,
that you get and how your body
yeah,
guides you. But it is not
got
really,
it,
you just, once you know, okay, that most of it is out, then you
mm,
can resume your practice. In fact, after that, it's even good to do things like headstand and stuff like that, because if there's any like thing, any energy which is a panic, which has to be removed, it will be removed. So after your cycle, you can actually do headstand, and it's recommended to it once it's finished.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Satvika, what about Malasan?
Malasana is very good. That squatting
Good,
posture,
right?
squatting position.
Yes.
Excellent. Because again,
That
it's deep opening up.
slight bit of pressure on the stomach, right? A little bit of, your hips aren't very
Keep
open.
your feet apart. Keep your feet apart so it's an open kind of a squat. Like don't compress your abdomen when you're doing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Uh,
So keep your feet slightly apart, go into a squat and open the knees with your arms so that you're literally opening the pelvis. Malasana is very good.
And I also wanted to ask you, this is a very generic question. Sometimes some students or some, even family members for that matter, who know that, you practice during your periods, they refrain to come to class during periods, or
Hmm.
they refrain to do their practice. Is there any way where we can motivate them to not miss the class? Because see, like you said, period is something which is very different for every woman.
Yeah.
But most of them end up resting for, 5 days and they miss class.
Yeah.
And I feel that, especially, I want to, throw some light on this to my friends also, who don't practice with me, but
Hmm.
they do other forms of workout. Don't miss class during these days. In fact, movement is better. It will help you, heal, and you'll feel good. But they still don't come. So what can we help them with? So, so that we can motivate them a little bit more.
So actually, in this case, it's a little tricky because each woman experiences her cycle differently in a unique way. Some people are very comfortable and they don't really have much issue, like much, there's no pain, nothing. So they are very comfortable and they do the practice and all that. It's perfectly okay. And some women just can't do anything. They feel very weak. They feel very tired. They feel a lot of pain. And for them, they just want to rest. And maybe that's how their body guides them to, because there are different body types also. So each
Okay.
body type is slightly different. So they have to actually listen to their own body and do what is right for them. Some people may just prefer to go for a walk if they want to do something very simple, not like asanas and whatever. So that's okay too. So
Okay.
it's very like individual in this. That's why we can't really push anyone to practice, and each one has to be guided from what their body recommends for them. Only thing is, it should not
And
be driven by I can do it, and it should not be driven by that strong,
correct.
I can do everything,
Sense of
because that is when you actually go against the need of your body, where you actually in that thing of yeah, I can do everything.
correct.
That is when you don't listen to that quiet voice inside that is saying something else is going on. Let that happen without interrupting it. So that is wisdom. That is not weakness. That is wisdom.
Correct. And
And
also this apana that you said, the downward flow of the prana.
yeah.
Does it specifically begin, or this? I think it's a continuous cycle that keeps flowing in the body, right? Because you
Apana
said it is
happens all the
elimination.
time. Every breath
So
and
this
exhale is apana.
this compression that you're saying, does that even do we not do this only during the 3 to 4 days of menstruation, or even pre-menstruation? Because many people feel a lot of that PMS, that
Mhm.
is sometimes worse than the actual menstruation also.
Yeah.
So what about practice during that time?
At that time, it's still okay. But if you're getting that feeling that I don't feel comfortable, if your body is just not comfortable doing it, then reduce the intensity or modify the practice. So, for
Okay.
example, if you're in a class and they're doing Ardha Matsyendrasana, don't do Ardha Matsyendrasana. Do an open twist instead. So
Okay.
you are getting a twist, but you're getting an open twist instead. So even if the class is going on, just adjust it with these alternatives, because there are so many alternatives, you can always adjust it with just substitute it with something that doesn't, or if you're doing Ardha Matsyendrasana, don't go to that full twist where you're like literally pushing your arm through. Do it in a gentle way where you're just like halfway twisting, so that there is some space and there's not such strong compression on your abdomen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, most welcome. Even learning to stop is something that we have to learn. Sometimes learning to stop and quieten down also is something important to learn. Like, as I told you, when I started practicing, I used to do headstands and everything. I used to do the same number of Surya Namaskars when I was doing only Hatha Yoga before I started practicing the Ashtanga method. I just did my regular practice. I didn't change anything. Even the retention of breath, everything, I did it just as I always did it. And it was okay because Hatha Yoga is still a more balanced practice. Ashtanga is a more deep, it's more for the people who want to walk a little, like they say that it's for the hardcore people who want to just jump into the practice and dive deep into it. So it is more like, it is more intense, it is more strong, but that is when you need to have more wisdom and more compassion also to your body. And this also applies for when you have injuries, because even when you have injuries, if you're practicing the Ashtanga method, you have to have that compassion towards your body to just stop and let that injury heal fully before you, exert it again. So with that great strength also comes great compassion. Otherwise, it is not complete. You have to develop that much compassion towards your own body needs when you develop that much strength in your practice. It's not just push, push, push. That becomes a very ego-driven practice, actually, and it defeats the purpose of practice. It is push to break your limits, but change that attitude when your body needs you to listen to it. It's both. It's a balance of both. I hope that makes sense. Is there any other
Makes
question?
a lot of sense.
Thank you. Any other question?
Because I've been like where you said, I have also been there. I told you, right, the practice changed.
Yeah.
This is what it was.
See, also, sometimes women have that little rebel nature inside, like nobody wants to be told, I can't do this, or you should not do this. That also comes in sometimes, especially when they have been told that before. When somebody has told them, don't do this, don't do that, then they feel, no, I can do everything. Of course, not for everybody, but this is also one type of mindset in women. So that is again an extreme which has to come back into balance. That yes, I can do everything, but I choose not to at this moment. And this is the best time to actually meditate if you actually go to see, because you're quietening down so much, and your body, because of so much happening in your body, awareness naturally increases. Your internal awareness naturally increases. There is so much more internal awareness. So it's the best time for actually for you to sit and meditate, because the body and mind are just in that flow already. So reducing the physicality of it, of the sadhana, and moving more into the higher stages of yoga, which are meditation. So actually you're not stopping your yoga practice, you're just changing the limb of yoga that you're practicing, more from the physical practice of asanas and pranayam, which is the physical postures and breath work. You're moving directly to meditation, which is really why we do asanas and pranayam in the first place. The whole point of doing asana and pranayam is to have that capacity to sit still and meditate. So just go into that higher level of practice. Use this opportunity for that. In fact, people who chant, they can also chant, but there are mixed reviews, not reviews, but there are mixed opinions on this. Because again, chanting also, when you get into that flow of chanting and you lose yourself in chanting, it takes you up, it rises, prana rises. And that they say that again, one side you want prana to move down, and here you're taking prana up. So there are mixed opinions on that. So I won't really say this is right or that is right, but these two opinions do exist. It's good to know that both exist. But meditation is perfect because there's already so much awareness within because of so much going on. And another thing, if you experience pain, anybody who experiences pain, discomfort, use that pain as your object of meditation, but don't give resistance to it. Like if you take that any discomfort in the body, and of course this applies even to other times of when there is discomfort in the body, like when you are sick, when there's an injury, or just generally when you experience pain somewhere, move your attention to the pain, keep that as your object of meditation, but with neutral observation. No resistance towards it, no aversion towards it, just a neutral mind exploring it, understanding it, allowing it, and accepting it. And that allowing and accepting opens up the body where the pain naturally starts to dissolve slowly, slowly, slowly. So, this is also another way of meditating if you feel uncomfortable or have pain. Explore the pain, understand the pain, accept it, and allow it. Never fight pain. Pain cannot go away if you fight it. It will only get amplified and magnified if you fight it, because you're giving it more energy. You're giving it your full mental strength. So you have to back off with your mental strength, observe it neutrally, allow it, let it be. Is there anything else that anyone wants to ask? Thank you.
Hey Satvika, no questions, but amazing session. I am not I don't go through this, but it was still a very good learning, and it was like there was a mix of common sense and a mix of some poses and this thing which I was, losing out on because I'm not good with names and everything. But I kind of got it, even being a newbie, if you will. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for the beautiful session. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, even though it's not directly relevant to you. I really, really appreciate this level of openness to learn and this level of receptivity. This is really amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have my sister's girlfriends or mom, so
Yeah. And a lot of this can be applied even to, like I was saying, restorative yoga when your body is injured otherwise, or recovering from sickness. So, or even just the general attitude to practice. Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Vika.
Most welcome, Padmaja. I hope this helped.
Yes, it helped a lot. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thank you, Satvika.
Anytime,
Bye.
Sudeep. Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.